Good evening, everyone. My name is Associate Professor John Smithson, and I really want to welcome you to our webinar where we're going to talk about the JCU Bachelor of Pharmacy program. We're really excited to talk to you tonight about the program, and part of our aim tonight is to help you understand what our program is about, what makes us great and our graduates great, and what opportunities there might be for you to pursue a career in pharmacy. And I've brought with me one of my colleagues, Shane McDonald, who I'll allow him to introduce himself, and also one of our third year students, Rhiannon Bassetti. Shane, can I ask you to say hello to everybody at the webinar, but also explain to them a little bit about your background?
Yeah, hi, thanks, John. My name's Shane McDonald. I am a JCU Pharmacy graduate from 2012. I am currently a community pharmacist in the Townsville region, and I've managed pharmacies in that region for about 8 years. My other particular role is on the Queensland Pharmaceutical Society of Australia, or PSA, branch president. That is a body that looks after all pharmacists, regardless of what area of practice you're in, and looks at the how we can look after pharmacists, promote the profession, and advocate successfully for it.
Yeah, the PSA also has a really strong role in setting standards for pharmacy practice and standards for community and hospital practice as well. Shane, thanks for that. Bree, are you there with us?
Yeah, I'm here, John. How's it going, everyone?
How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for coming along.
No worries, thank you.
Bree's one of our fantastic third year students, and I've asked her to come along to share some of her experiences with us. And Bree, I'm wondering if you could maybe introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Hi, guys. Shame I can't all see you at the moment, but it's nice to meet you virtually. As John said, my name is Bree, and I'm a current third year student. I'm doing my Bachelor of Pharmacy Honours. I'm also the president of JCU, so that's a pharmacy student association. We sort of aim to try and work towards doing social events and educational things for students, sort of to give back to them. I'm also a member of the Student Advisory Committee, so that works with JCU as a whole to try and benefit students. And I'm also a student mentor.
Yeah, so Bree has a couple of hats, but I think one of the things that I really enjoy about our student cohort is the opportunity for social events that JCU have put on for our students. Bree.
That's right. There's a lot of things we do, just going from our annual pharmacy ball, which we're successfully able to put through this year, through to your pub crawls for your over 18 people, as well as other little mixes and stuff we do at the university that are for under 18s.
Fantastic. And so just thanks, Bree, and thanks, Shane. Just back to the beginning a little bit for me. So as I said before, my name's Associate Professor John Smithson, and I'm the head of pharmacy here at JCU. I'm very lucky in that I'm a graduate of this university, I'm a graduate of this program, and I'm lucky to come back and run the program and head up the discipline now. So Brianna, if we can move to the next slide, please. Just to give you a bit of a heads up, you'll see on the bottom of your screen towards the right-hand side, there's a Q&A button. So if you've got any questions, just click that button and type them down or write them down. Shane and Bree will be monitoring the Q&A, and they'll be interjecting from time to time to give us some insight into some of the questions that you're asking. Now, because it's a webinar, I can't see you and I definitely can't hear you. So that's your way of communicating with us, your questions about what we're talking about. So as we go through the webinar, we'll address some of those questions. Shane and Bree will interrupt me, and we can answer some of those, and then we'll have some opportunity towards the end to also address any final questions you might have. So Q&A button right at the bottom of your screen in the center there. Brianna, can you move to the next slide? Fantastic. So pharmacy, a career with adventure, skills and impact. So I might talk to you about some of the reasons why I became a pharmacist, right? So I was really interested in health. I was interested in helping people, and I had a passion for improving the healthcare of people in our local communities. That's why I trained in the North and I stayed in the North. So a pharmacy degree from JCU will provide you with a whole range of career opportunities, not limited to hospital pharmacy or community pharmacy. We've got our graduates who are overseas working in developing countries. We've got graduates. In fact, a graduate that you'll meet later on tonight, or at least a photo, who I graduated with, who's running the medical and pharmaceutical stores for the Australian Defence Force. So she's the chief pharmacist for the ADF. We have pharmacists in consultancy roles, working with general practice and general practitioners, working in aged care facilities. We have pharmacists working in health service management, working in policy development and government, and much more. So I share that with you because there's a broad range of skills that pharmacists contribute to the health of our community, and it's a really dynamic and exciting job to be in. Shane, would you add anything more to that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. There's so many different aspects of pharmacy that we can look at. And as you said, looking at defence personnel is one of them. Community and hospital are the two main ones that everyone would generally be familiar with. But looking into industrial pharmacy, where you look at drug and research development, academia, there's also the industry in a sense of advocating for different professional bodies such as the PSA, the Pharmacy Guild, the SHPA, which is the hospital pharmacists. Many different avenues of pharmacy where it can take you just depending on what your interests are.
Yeah, and the thing that excites me maybe the most, Shane, is the idea that pharmacy as a profession provides more than 6,500 individual primary care services around the country. So you can walk into any pharmacy anywhere in the country and speak to a pharmacist, someone who's highly trained and respected, and get primary health advice as well as referral services. And so this is a fantastic service that we provide to our communities, and it's something that I'm personally really proud of. Brianna, can we move to the next slide if you don't mind? All right, so we've got some quiz questions for you, and I think people. I think a quiz will pop up on the screen soon. Brianna, let me know if I've got that wrong, or Pamela. And so maybe we could move to that quiz now. So the idea of this quiz is for you guys to answer some of the questions. You should see the poll popping up in front of you, and we're going to use this as maybe a stepping off point. So you should see in front of you 3 questions at the moment around pharmacy and where pharmacy might take you. And I urge you to take a moment to start filling those in.
While we are waiting, John, I do have a quick question. Either Bree or yourself can answer. It says, do pharmacists do much compounding? And yeah, let's start with that one.
So maybe Bree, maybe you could give us your definition of what compounding is and why pharmacists do compounding.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess this is something you do lots of in first and second year when you first start your degree, and obviously you touch on it again in fourth year when you're finishing it off. But essentially compounding is all doing with like the manufacturing of the medication, I'd probably describe it as. So you're doing things like you're compounding, I probably shouldn't use the word itself, but you're making your creams, for example, if someone's got skin conditions, or medications of the type to suit the person and the needs of the treatment. So I guess in terms of a pharmacist, while I'm not qualified just yet, I know just working in community pharmacy alone, a lot of compounding is done. I wouldn't say it's as much near as what a compounding pharmacy itself would have, but a lot of your basic compounding certainly is done. Do you have anything to add to that, John or Shane?
Yeah.
So I think, John.
Yeah, thanks, Shane. Compounding is really, I think I agree with you. It's the manufacturing of medicines, and we do a lot of conversion of one dosage form into another. So converting tablets to liquids, converting powders to creams, tablets to solutions for babies or young children to be able to consume. And so reinforcing what Bree's saying, there's a lot of compounding that goes on in pharmacies. Some pharmacists specialize in compounding, and that they run almost their entire business on the conversion of different formulations into something else that's more palatable. Well, we might go back to these questions on the screen. So, providing vaccinations as part of the public health strategy to reduce the incidence of influenza and other common vaccines and preventable diseases. I mean, that sounds like something that community pharmacies are doing at the moment, Shane.
Yes. Sorry. Yep. Yeah. So it definitely is. There's many pharmacists, myself included, that are immunizing pharmacists or vaccinating pharmacists, for lack of a better word. and we were essentially tasked to start off by vaccinating just the common influenza. But over time, that's grown, and we can now vaccinate for many different disease states, both whooping cough, measles, mumps, rubella, and then it's increased further into different sort of travel vaccinations and things like that as well. So yeah, definitely something that we can do.
Fantastic. Brianna, can we move to the next slide, please? Oh, there we go, to the answers. Can we pop those up? All right, so I'm seeing the poll results here. Does it sound like something a pharmacist would do? Planning medical and medicine logistics for national response to a natural disaster in a developing country. Most of you got that answer right. That's absolutely true. So I'll introduce you to the bio of one of our graduates who does exactly this work, and she's quite an impressive individual. The second question, working as part of a specialist care team to deliver specialised pharmaceutical care services to critical ill patients in hospital. Absolutely. So there's plenty of examples around the country, particularly in large tertiary hospitals where pharmacists are integrated and integral in the provision of care to patients, and specifically pharmaceutical care. And so our role there would be to maximise and optimise medication therapy to patients and minimise harm to patients. Shane, would you add anything else to that?
No, I'm fairly happy with that answer. I'm happy with that. Sorry.
Right, fantastic. And of course, everyone got the third one right, and Shane's already spoken to this about the provision of vaccinations. Brianna, can we move to the next slide, please? All right, so I want to introduce you to a couple of our alumni and graduates. First is Vince Popolato on the left-hand side. So Vince is a pharmacist and a community pharmacy owner. He owns a chain of pharmacies, and Vince is a standout for me. So Vince's passion is really bringing holistic healthcare to his patients in his community pharmacies. And so Vince runs his local pharmacies up in North Queensland, and it is well known for the patient-specific services that he delivers. So we're quite proud of Vince. Tom Clayton's one of our graduates from about 12 years ago. Tom now works as the paediatric pharmacist in the Lady Salento Children's Hospital in Brisbane. And so Tom's entire career now is built around the provision of pharmaceutical services, specifically in children. And so this is really exciting, and it's a really specialist area, but one that's growing in pharmacy practice. And so Tom started in the same place as Shane, Brianna and I did, which is here at JCU, and now he's down in Brisbane, the Lady Salento, running the Children's Hospital paediatric pharmacy services. The third person, or the third bio I'd like to introduce you to, is Tamara Lee. So Tamara and I graduated together a good few years ago now, and Tamara is the chief pharmacist for the ADF, and Tamara's role is to provide logistics support for medical supplies and pharmaceuticals to any Australian military deployment. And so Tamara's found herself in a range of countries, and she talks there a little bit about her experience flying around the Kashmir region in India and Pakistan on a deployment there. And so we share these three contrasting experiences of our graduates with you, because I think it illustrates to you the diversity of potential roles that you can play and places that pharmacy can take you, not just locally, not just within your hometown, not just within your country, but internationally, certainly. And so I think it's a really exciting opportunity for people to take. Bree, can we move to the next slide, please? Thanks. Next, I want to talk to you about the future of pharmacy, and maybe, Shane, you'd be the better person to talk about this, because you're on the front line, not just in community practice, but also your role with the Pharmaceutical Society of Australia. I wonder if you might talk to us about where you think the pharmacy profession is going, because I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, so currently I'll just start with, I have two roles. One is that of a community pharmacist. So we look at first and foremost looking after the patients in our community. So we do that through a whole myriad of different things currently. It would be, as an example, we can diagnose and prescribe for certain minor ailments such as cold and flu, minor skin conditions, that type of thing. We can talk to patients about how to use their medications, possible side effects that occur. We can then also conduct medicine reviews, so look into what a patient's medications are, and then talk to their GP to provide that optimum care for that patient. Currently, I'm also a vaccinating pharmacist. So I can administer numerous vaccines, as talked about before. And then my other role, being branch president, as John mentioned earlier, was basically doing a lot of advocating for pharmacists and the profession, help determine health policy in regards to pharmacists, and of course the standards and guidelines. I think me looking into that that lens of patient-centered care, though, what would the future of pharmacy look like? I think pharmacists would be able to do all that we're doing currently, plus we'd be able to get into new areas, such as one of the exciting areas at the moment is pharmacists in general practice. That is able to work in with your GPs at a much closer level, looking at things like working in aged care and embedding pharmacists into that scenario where we're not currently at the moment. Really looking at things like further prescribing. There's different trials and things like that happening at the moment in that atmosphere, but there's nothing that's definitely certain. But I think in the future, that's definitely something that would occur. And realistically, I think doing that with less of an administration burden that we have at the moment. So a lot of people go, oh yeah, we're putting labels on a box, that type of thing. That is one very minute part of what pharmacists do. But it does take up time, and using things like technology and an increase in robotics and that type of thing in just one aspect will allow us to be much more clinical and engaging with our patients. I think that's definitely sort of the future of healthcare. And yeah.
So one of the coolest things I've seen in the last 2 or 3 years has been the introduction of robotics to a pharmacy practice. And so effectively, you know, there's now the pharmacist is entering the information, spending the time with the patient, and while they're talking to the patient, providing primary care, non-drug advice and advice about medicines optimization, a robot's in the background preparing the medication and spitting it out. So they're using their time more efficiently. I just want to go to some of the Q&As that have been coming through. One from Angela here: how many or which years can you study part-time? So next year, our program will be available in a full-time and a part-time mode, and we'll be offering the first 2 years of our program in a part-time mode, and the last 2 years of our program, so it's a 4-year program overall for students. The last 2 years of our program will be full-time. So if you want to do the program for over a 6-year period, you can do the first 2 years part-time and the second 2 years full-time. A question here from Natalie: what's your favorite part about being a pharmacist? I've got to say, I think it's engaging with people, right? That's the bit that I really love. You know, look, I'm a bit of a detective and a sleuth, so I like to solve problems, but engaging with people one-on-one, face-to-face, and helping them make a journey from disease to health is what, you know, really gets me up in the morning. And now, of course, what gets me up is making sure that we've got hundreds of pharmacists that are going out every year, and to be able to carry on that work. So that's good. All right, can we just move forward on the next slide, Brianna? Right, so pharmacy is a career that can take you to many places. So I suppose I keep saying this, and if you've heard me speak before, I always say health's a great place to be. We've got an aging population, and the next 25 to 35 years, the demand on health systems is going to be huge. So if you want a career that's pretty much future-proofed, pharmacy is a great option. It provides a lot of flexibility. It provides us a lot of clinical scope to do really exciting and interesting work. And I think it's a dynamic place for people to be. So pharmacists are one of the most highly respected, not just health professionals, but but professions in the community. And so we're very lucky to enjoy that place, that status in our community. And I think pharmacists work really, really hard to maintain that. So pharmacy is definitely a career that can take you from where you are now to just about anywhere you want to be. Bree, can we move on to the next slide, please? I want to talk a little bit about us and the communities that we serve. So JCU Pharmacy has been delivering pharmacy programs in North Queensland for nearly 21 years now. And so we've been providing the workforce for Northern Australia and certainly Northern and regional Queensland for that entire time. And we've been providing the opportunity for students who otherwise wouldn't have been able to access pharmacy education to get into what I think is a really exciting profession and start down those really diverse career pathways. Our graduates are really in really high demand. They're very highly rated across the state and the country. Our graduates graduate with the confidence and competence to be able to go and work anywhere in a novice pharmacist role, whether that be in rural and regional areas, in community practice, in hospital practice. Our graduates always report to us that they feel ready to take that next step. And we've been building for 20 years or 21 years, this fit for purpose a workforce for the pharmacy profession. And what our focus is here is really developing pharmacists that are apt and capable of delivering high quality health services in low resource and regional areas such as North Queensland experiences. We've got a comprehensive curriculum, which means to you that you'll get everything you need to be able to transition from the university into your practice environment. And so we provide that comprehensive curriculum, and we provide a lot of supervised clinical practice. And we provide one of the highest number of hours of supervised clinical practice across any pharmacy school in Australia. And all of this in a package means that our graduates are in really high demand, both in the country and in the city. And we're really proud of some of the achievements that our graduates have had. I'm just going to go back to one or two questions here.
Yep.
So Yvette asks, once graduated, must you start in the community setting or can you specialise straight up? Bree, can you maybe share with us your thoughts about that, given your current experience over the last 3 years in training?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously I'm not an expert in this area, but from my understanding, you don't have to just start in community pharmacy. I'm not sure if many people are aware, but after your 4 years of the degree, you are required to do an intern year to get your full qualification. And in that intern year, you can apply to go essentially anywhere from hospital pharmacy or community, as we mentioned. Some people might be going to the defence area if they're already in there or want to go further. There's all these different aspects you can go to, and really you get to pick your own path. And I think that's the best thing about pharmacy. It's not just a one way and one way only. You can do what you want. Do you have anything to add to that? I think that's sort of all I have to say.
No, I think that sums it up. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thanks, Bree.
Thanks.
Brianna, can we move to the next slide, please? So pharmacy at JCU. So at the moment, our course is accredited to be delivered in Townsville. And so every pharmacy course in Australia is accredited with the Australian Pharmacy Council. But we have applied for accreditation to deliver our programs in Mackay and Cairns from 2021. So subject to approval by our accrediting body, we hope to be able to take students in both Cairns and Mackay to study as a cohort group with our Townsville students. And I'll talk a little bit about how we're going to achieve that, or maybe I can talk about that now.
Yep.
So that would mean that some of the materials that our students will experience, if we're accredited to deliver at those sites, will be delivered online, but the majority of the experiences will still be face-to-face. And so we want to bring students onto our 3 campuses when they're approved in Cairns, Townsville and Mackay, and have them, before they turn up, do some pre-study work. So most of the lectures that we would have usually delivered face-to-face, we are delivering online as recorded lectures and digital tasks that students do. And that prepares them for the transition into our tutorials, workshops and practicals. And that's where you'll get face-to-face hands-on experience with our pharmacy academics and tutors. And so irrespective of whether those students are in Cairns, Townsville or Mackay, they'll still be coming on campus for at least 1 day a week to be able to engage with our pharmacist mentors and our pharmacist tutors and academics in order to be able to get those real life skills that they need. Our degree is rated as a 5-star degree, so it's independently rated 5 stars overall for student experience and learner engagement, for teaching quality and student support. Our students are in high demand, and our graduates or our university or our course is ranked as one of the #1 universities in Queensland for full-time graduate employment for pharmacists. So that means that the vast majority of our students on graduation already have a job that they're going to, which is really exciting for them. And as I said earlier, there's plenty of hands-on experience, over 600 hours of clinical placement in a range of diverse settings, from high acuity clinical areas such as tertiary hospitals through to smaller community hospitals, community pharmacies in regional areas, community pharmacies in big metropolitan locations, as well as hospitals in places like Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne. So our students get a really broad experience in their clinical placement, and this is something that differentiates us from a number of other pharmacy schools around the country.
And then just to add to that, John, as a manager and talking to a lot of different pharmacy owners, that hands-on experience is and that ready to work as soon as that degree is over is highly valued in the community, and we do definitely have a high demand for JCU students because of that. So it's every year we get asked how many people are coming through to be able to work for us, and it's staggering who says, yeah, we want a JCU student, because they understand that they're ready to work from day one.
Well, they're the very best, I think,
and it gives those students that confidence to be able to do it.
Yeah, great. I've just got a question here from an anonymous attendee. So how many hours a week are we required to work during the intern year? So for those of you who don't know, the qualification to register you as a pharmacist is 4 years long if you do it full time. And then after the end of that, you'll go and do an intern year, which is a year of supervised practice. So Shane, you would have supervised a whole bunch of intern pharmacists.
Yep.
Right? Yep.
So generally people will complete that full time, so somewhere between 38 and 40 hours a week. However, I don't want to fully be quoted here, but as far as I'm aware, there is no minimum hours per week that you would have to complete that. So you could do that at part-time. It definitely something that can vary in. However, there is a total amount of hours that you must complete for that intern block. So that intern period is 1,824 hours. So it essentially works out for 48 weeks for 1 year at 38 hours a week, but you can do that over a longer period. So there's no reason why you couldn't complete that in a year and a half or 2 years if needed. So there's a minimum amount of hours total, but not per week.
Thanks, Shane. So I just see another question here from Hadel. I think it's pronounced. I'm sorry if I've mashed your first name there. And Hadel asked about transferring from another course or coming into pharmacy with another degree. And so Hadel, it's obviously degree dependent. But can I encourage you to make contact with inquiries at jcu.edu.au or give the number at the end of this presentation a call. And what they'll do is they'll make contact with us, and we'll look at the advanced standing and the pathway for you into the program. And so that goes for anybody that's looking to transfer from another course or another university, or if you've already got a first degree and you're wanting to look at a career change, then contact inquiries at jcu.edu.au or the phone number, and we can start looking at what credit you might achieve for that transition. Brianna, can we flick to the next slide, please? Right, so more about us. We're committed to student success. When you come to JCU and study pharmacy, you'll be supported by passionate and experienced educators. So I've got about 25 years of clinical experience. I've been educating pharmacists and nurses and doctors and dentists and a whole bunch of other people for about 15 years. And so I've never bothered to add up the number of years of experience that we have in our corridors here, but it's pretty significant. The other benefit is that you'll be learning in small class environments. So we typically maintain small learning groups and which allows us to spend more time with you individually and more time in small group learning activities. And Bree, maybe could you share with us your experience of learning with us here at JCU in Pharmacy?
Yeah, absolutely. So usually, providing we didn't have our COVID-19 situation, a lot of it's in class. There are quite big days, I find. So usually at uni, either Monday to Friday or at least 4 days of the week for about 8 hours a day, give or take, with gaps though. But I find it's a really good opportunity. You essentially have some lectures themselves. Then you have workshops and tutorials to follow just to make sure you really do understand what is being taught. And if you have any follow-up questions, there's that opportunity too. Yeah, I find it really great. Even at the moment with everything online, everything's recorded and stuff. So if you are unable to attend a lecture at a certain time, you can go back to it and everything, which is really great. So I think the whole transition has been really good personally.
And then after you're viewing that online material, Bree, I mean, we're in the classroom together, following that up and doing practical learning activities face-to-face, yeah?
That's right, yeah.
I see a question from Larissa here regarding the intern year. Must you be located where there's an accredited supervisor? And the answer is yes. So any registered pharmacist can supervise an intern pharmacist, certainly. Right, so moving on with the presentation. As part of our course, you'll get placed in a broad range of clinical areas: retail and community pharmacies, hospitals in regional, rural and remote areas, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. And so this is the types of experiences that make a difference to the type of graduates that we're graduating, right? So it's these real life clinical experiences, this broad spectrum of experience that our graduates are getting. So that's the benefit for the population and the hospitals and the community pharmacies that are taking our graduates. But the benefit for our graduates is that they get to see a wide range of of pharmacy practice before they make a decision about where they want to start their career. And I think that's really exciting. The other great thing about our program is that we've worked very hard in the last couple of years to allow flexible delivery options, which allows students to be able to maintain a balance between their study, their work, and their family responsibilities. And we find this is one of the ways that we increase the success rate of our students. And so someone asked before, I saw a question flick up about the success rates of our students. And so the flexibility that we have in our course really assists students in staying engaged with their study and being able to satisfy their other responsibilities in life, as well as do well in their course. Brianna, can we move to the next slide? So I see Lizette commented here, if we start in Mackay, do we still need to go to Townsville? So as I said before, we've sought accreditation with the APC to deliver in Mackay, and that's we're still waiting on that, but we're hopeful. For students who would be studying in Mackay or Cairns, they do the vast majority of their study in Mackay and Cairns, but we require them to come to Townsville for 1 week each semester to do a face-to-face masterclass or residential with us. So what we've tried to do in that model is minimize the amount of time that you're dislocated from your home and your own community. And the whole idea behind that would be that if we can educate pharmacists locally, they can get their experiences locally, they can do their intern locally, they're far more likely to stay and work in that local environment. And that's what we're trying to achieve here. All right, our state-of-the-art facility. So you can see there a couple of our students are on the left-hand side. One of our students is using one of the dissolution rigs to measure how long a particular tablet would take to dissolve in the stomach. And that will give us an indication of how quickly it might work, as well as the duration of time between the dosing and full absorption. On the right-hand side, you see some of our honours students who are doing a lab project with one of our PhD graduates. And so as part of our Bachelor of Pharmacy, all of our students will do an honours degree and graduate with an honours degree. And so we're really excited about that also. Brianna, can you move to the next slide for me? Thanks. Here's some more diagrams of some of the laboratory experiences you'll get in our course. And on the right-hand side, Bree, what's the student doing there?
Compounding, our favourite thing.
So at the moment, it looks like that they're making a sulfur and salicylic acid cream. And so what we're doing is we're incorporating a couple of pharmaceutical products into a dosage form that the patient can safely apply to their skin. And so that's one of the skills that you learn across the 4 years of your degree. And the nice thing about this and where you're learning is that, we all live in a fantastic area in North Queensland, whether it's Townsville, Cairns or Mackay, and we've got some great facilities here. So our facilities in Townsville were built around about 10 years ago. I think Bree will agree, they're fresh, they're modern looking, and they're absolutely fit for purpose. They were designed with the students in mind, and we're really quite proud of our facilities here. All right, Brianna, can you flick us to the next slide? Right, so I just want to talk about placement and our placement opportunities. You can see the little blue dots dotted all around the map. And so we haven't included all of the places we send our students because we send them everywhere. Now, the question that some students sometimes ask is, do I have to go too far away from home to do my placements? And the answer is, yeah, we need to send you away to experience pharmacy in different areas, but mostly if you want, they can be fairly local to North Queensland. But after a while, I think Bree would agree that a lot of our students really start to stretch their legs by third year and they're looking for fantastic experiences. So we're sending students to the Torres Straits, we're sending students to the Pilbara region in Western Australia, to Tasmania. Of course, they get those big city experiences in Brisbane, Melbourne and Sydney. But we're sending students, almost all of our students get to go out to Mount Isa and spend a couple of weeks out there learning about rural and remote pharmacy. And so while that map shows that we send our students to a couple of different places, the sky is really the limit. We also have the opportunity to send our students to some limited overseas placements in the US and Canada, in Fiji and the Solomon Islands and Papua New Guinea. But that's on a case-by-case basis, certainly. Bree, would you like to share anything with us about placement from your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely something I'd hope to touch on soon anyway. Might as well start now, I guess. So I'll start with placement and just talk about each of the photos here, just from some of the opportunities I've had at JCU. So we'll start with the first photo on the left. The first photo is one I took from Mount Isa placement, just earlier in the year actually, and this was at the Mary Kathleen site, so it's an old abandoned site. It's really amazing what you get to do there. You are there for placement, but you also do have the weekends to spend with other health professionals from other universities, to go on adventures and actually enjoy your holidays rather than spend them all working. So I think that's really something you want to take up those opportunities when you do. I was only in Mount Isa for 2 weeks, but I found I was able to do a lot of stuff there and I honestly would go back. Rural placement or rural working in general is nothing I ever considered, but certainly after doing a couple of rural placements, I have put that thought in my head. Moving on to the second one, again, it's another compounding photo. And I think, again, we're making a cream in this situation. I really do think compounding is an essential part of pharmacy, and depending on where you work in the future, you will be required to know the basics of compounding, whether it's for creams, ointments, you name it. Even little things like making up a quick suspension that's pre-prepared, mixtures and all that stuff. It really is an integral part. The third photo is again from another rural placement I did this year, and that was in Karumba. Now, unfortunately on this placement, I was the only student there. However, the staff and all the locals are very welcoming, and I found myself out almost every night at a community event. So I guess the important thing for that there is you do need to get involved in the community to have that full experience, especially being rural, because there's only so much you can do when you are away. So just get out of your comfort zone and everything and give it a good crack. I guess on that note, if I can offer a piece of advice to you guys, it would be just to essentially get involved. So if you want the full uni experience, you want to make sure you get out there and you grab it yourself. So attend social and educational events, participate in interfaculty sport with your med students, develop close relationships with your lecturers and peers, go to the annual pharmacy congress with other Australian and New Zealand peers, because at the end of the day, these are the people you'll be spending the rest of your working life with. And in a career like pharmacy, there's not many of you. Unfortunately, you will find with pharmacy, the class sizes are quite small, but the added bonus to that is you get more one-on-one time with lecturers, which is enhancing your learning ability. And you're also guaranteed a job at the end of it. Like John mentioned before, there's always a need for pharmacists, and being a health profession, you're always guaranteed to have a future career. And I guess the same can be said about placement as well. Like, get involved in activities, participate with the pharmacist or staff. Really just keep your options open. I know when I first started pharmacy, all I could think about was doing hospital pharmacy and nothing else. At that point, I also wasn't really aware of the other options. But I guess now, after doing my placements and stuff, working in the rural settings and in a big city environment, working closely with business owners and locum pharmacists, just to name a few, it's really broadened my scope as to what I could do and how I could become a full scope pharmacist. So I guess, yeah, really just keep your options open and get involved in what you can.
Great advice, Bree. Thanks very much. I just see a question that's popped up here. If you live in a rural area, is there an option to study online and only visit campus when required? So there's a fairly simple answer to that. So we've applied to be able to deliver in Mackay and Cairns from next year with the Australian Pharmacy Council. It sounds like I'm repeating myself. And if we're successful in that application, we'll be able to take students in on those two sites from 2021. That will mean if you're living in that regional area, you'll be able to study with us and attend campus at most, usually between 1 and 1.5 days per week. So the rest of the week you'll have available to work or study at home or satisfy your other family responsibilities. That's of course pending the approval by our accrediting body. Right, Brianna, can we go to the next slide, please? Right, some course details. So the start date for next year is February 2021. At the moment, we offer our course in Townsville, but we have applied for accreditation in Cairns and Mackay for next year as well. The duration of the program is 4 years full-time or 6 years part-time. The entry requirements, you'd require an OP of 12 or an ATAR of 73.3. You would normally require English, chemistry, and mathematics as well. Now, we get a lot of inquiries from students who don't have, for example, chemistry, or they don't have the mathematics that they require to the Maths B, and we've got a pathway for you as well. So for those of you who don't meet the entry requirements, I urge you to talk to inquiries at jcu.edu.au or call the 1-800 number. So we've got a number of pathways that allow students to bridge into pharmacy, as well as, so there's bridging courses, as well as a diploma of higher education that feeds directly in to our program. And there are some subjects you can take in the diploma that actually count to your pharmacy degree as well. So if you're looking at the entry requirements and you're thinking to yourself, I'm not sure, the safest thing to do is ring the 1-800 number or make contact with inquiries at jcu.edu.au, and those guys will be able to talk through with you the pathway for you to get where you are to where you want to be in first year. Right, Brianna, do we have another slide after that? Okay, so the application process. So this is an application process that was designed for me. It's one single step, so even I can't get it wrong. So you can apply online via the QTAC website, and those applications will come direct to us at JCU, where they'll be actioned.
So I've got a couple of quick questions there, John.
Yep.
I've got a question here from Lizette saying, if you're from another country, do you still need to do the IELTS even if you're an Australian citizen, but you are from another country as well?
Not necessarily. So there's a direct entry pathway for domestic students as well that don't have IELTS scores. Sorry, let me go back. IELTS, I apologise, it was a mistake. So yeah, you will need an IELTS score if you are a non-Australian citizen, but the rules around who does require an IELTS and who doesn't is dependent upon the country of origin. And so if, depending on which country you come from, will depend on whether you need to produce a particular IELTS test and score as a result. And for those of you who don't know what IELTS is, it's an English language proficiency score that people from countries where English is not the first language of the country typically do to demonstrate competence in English reading, writing, and enunciation. And so if you're not sure, I'd urge you to contact inquiries at jcu.edu.au, and they will be able to have a look at the rules and the country that you come from and give that advice. No problem at all.
Next one's probably for either of you guys. It says, how many lessons would be practical I would say in a given week, let's start with.
Yeah, so I mean, at the moment, Bree, how many contact hours face-to-face are you doing? Acknowledging that all of our lectures are now online because of the situation we have with COVID.
Yeah, so at the moment as a third year student, so Monday, Tuesdays, we are all online, meaning we don't have to be at university. Wednesday, Thursday, we have probably for each of those days around 6 to 7 contact hours per day, but they're all spread out. There's gaps in between, so you're not constantly in that classroom setting. I think it's a really good thing. I know on a Thursday morning, we usually have about 3 hours. I'm with John in this situation for this class, and we'll work through some case studies and whatnot that really help to give you that broad understanding of the content you're doing. And if you have questions in that setting, you can ask. But really at the moment with everything that's happening, it's really quite flexible with whatever circumstances you have. If you're needing to be working extra days or you have family commitments or whatever, I find it's really good just to be at the uni a couple of days of the week.
Fantastic. And I'm just going, let's just see a question pop up from SKHOS 2003, asking again about the part-time and full-time options. And so we offer the course in both full-time and part-time. The first 2 years of the program can be done in a part-time mode. The last 2 years have to be done in a full-time mode. And that's because of the types of subjects that you'll be doing. And so if you're doing a part-time program with us, it'll take you 6 years to get through. If you're doing a full-time program, it takes 4 years. All right.
So I do have another question there. It has, will Mackay students be able to do the whole course in Mackay, or will there still be travel involved?
So so if we're accredited to provide the program in Mackay, Mackay students will attend campus each week on the Mackay campus for between 1 and 1.5 days a week, and that'll be compressed into concurrent sessions. So you've got the rest of the week free, most likely, and so they'll do the majority of their study in Mackay. So, but you will be required to come to Townsville to participate in masterclasses and residentials at the end of each semester. So it'll be 1 week a semester, and there's 2 semesters in each year. So you'll be required to travel to Townsville for two separate weeks each year. And that's our way of allowing people who can't leave their community or the area that they're living in and relocate to a different centre like Townsville or Brisbane or Sydney to engage with pharmacy education. And so our aim is to help you stay in your local community. I mean, the other bit of travel that will be required is when you go on placement. So some of your placements will be done locally in your home centre, but we also want you to see other areas of pharmacy practice and other locations. And so there'll be opportunities for you to travel to other towns and cities in order to participate or undertake your placement at those sites too. Shane, are there any other questions that have popped up?
Yeah, I've got one actually. I was going to say, in your practice to date, John, do you have one specific thing that you can, one highlight of your career so far that you can tell everyone about?
Yeah, look, I think a recent highlight was spending a couple of weeks in Papua New Guinea, running medical clinics, and Shane's smiling, but Shane's also done a fair bit of work in PNG. And so I was lucky enough to work for a couple of weeks on a medical ship providing pharmaceutical care and primary care to some remote villages around the PNG coast. And so my day consisted of getting up in the morning, having breakfast. My pharmacy was in a large backpack, which weighed about 20 kilos. So, I mean, I'd prep my pharmacy, put it on my back. We'd go down, jump in the Zodiacs, travel to the location, and we'd run a health clinic for the day. And so I'd spend my day in and out working with nurses and doctors in a local location. I'd also head off to provide pharmaceutical education to the local healthcare workers, so they were better prepared to be able to use the limited medications that they had in their own dispensaries at those remote locations. So I've got to say, in the last little while, Shane, my work in PNG was a real career highlight for me.
Yep.
Yeah. I see another question here. Someone's asked, if lectures are online right now, what do students do at the campus or in person? And so, I mean, the aim of the lectures is to give students the necessary background information, and we take that information, we get them to apply it in a highly supported environment in the classroom. And so, for example, this week, my students are learning about the use of analgesics and how best to apply. So a lot of the theory around analgesics, how the different ones work, how they should be used, the risks with them, how to reduce the risks. All of that information is provided online in a digital format. And then Bree will come into the classroom with me and we'll work through some case scenarios together. So she gets to apply that information to a real world context. And that's our way of being able to take the theory and have students applied in a practical context. And then from there, of course, Bree will pack her bags and go off to her placement site somewhere and apply that information again in a real world context, maybe with Shane at some stage. And so that's what students are doing when they're not in lectures with us. If they're in the classroom, we're spending a lot of time applying. Now, if it was extemporaneous dispensing, they'd be in the extemp lab, actually practicing making those creams, ointments, pastes, solutions, drops, lollipops, lozenges, all those things that we teach students to make. So there's a whole range of experiences. For our first year students, they do anatomy and physiology labs. So they do some practical time in the anatomy and phys labs where they get to see, the anatomy of people, right? Which is really critical to your understanding of healthcare and how medicines work, but also how diseases affect the body. So they're the types of experiences that our students have when they're not taking lectures, when they're in the classroom. So Lizette says, asks, is there placement every year? So we do have some very, very limited placement experiences in the first and second year. They're basically introductory placements, but the bulk of our placements are done in years 3 and year 4. And that's where a lot of the, where most of the really therapeutic stuff is delivered in the course. And so the majority of student placements are conducted in the last 2 years of the program. I see someone's asked here, what if you don't get the ATAR score for pharmacy? That's okay. I think if you should still apply for pharmacy at JCU and then make contact with inquiries at jcu.edu.au, and I'll talk about your options. So there might be a pathway option for you if your ATAR score is too low. There may be a bridging course that you can take to be able to bridge that gap between the subjects that you're missing and what you need for our entry requirements. And so it's really important that you pick up the phone and ring the 1-800 number or make contact with inquiries at jcu.edu.au and talk through your particular circumstance. Carly asks, what does honours selection in a pharmacy degree actually entail, and do you undertake a research project? So the answer is yes. All of our students undertake a research project. They've got the option of either undertaking an individual research project, and that's normally by invitation for students who have a high GPA. So students doing an individual honours program will be invited to do that, and it'll be GPA based. But all of our students do an honours program, and the remainder will do group honours projects. So we will have, for example, groups of 3 to 4 students working on an individual project as a team. And so, for example, we might go to Shane and say, look, Shane, what is an issue that you're facing in practice at the moment? And Shane will give us a problem. And so we'll take our students and say, look, do we think we can explore this a little bit and investigate this problem with Shane? And the students will spend the next 2 years in their program, apart from their other study, investigating that particular problem, whether it be in a community context or a hospital context, whether it's in primary care, or it could be in a laboratory. It's really open to the types of projects that we have available at the time and the interests of the individual students. I see one question from Alana there. Will all lectures be recorded from Townsville and given to students in Cairns online? So if we are able to deliver our program in Cairns next year, all of our students will get exactly the same experience regarding the lecture material. So all of our lecture material has been developed as high quality, engaging online digital artifacts. So whether you're in Townsville, Cairns or Mackay, you'll be receiving the same lecture material, which is effectively a summary of the lecture content and recorded cut up parts of the lecture where we're actually talking to you about that particular problem, and then with some activities interspersed in there so you can start engaging with it. So it's not a matter of me me presenting from Townsville to other sites. All of that's done online now with pre-recorded information, but high quality digital artifacts which you can engage with. And the benefit of that is that when you're not in the classroom in tutes, practicals and workshops, you can consume that information independently, asynchronously, without me having to be there, which means that it frees up your time to be flexible around the other things in your life. And that's what we're really excited about. So if you're a mature age student who's looking to career change, somebody who can reduce their work hours but not completely finish work, what we want to do is provide you with the opportunity to be able to study part of your course with us using digital medium. And so that time is really flexible for you, whether you're doing it at 8 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't make any difference to us. What does make a difference is the time that you're spending with us in the classroom for that day or day and a half each week. And that's where we want to focus your time, so you can have more flexibility about how you spend your week. Bree, there's a question here, and maybe that you're best to answer because you actually face this. What are some challenges that you have found whilst working in pharmacy?
Yeah, so at the moment as a student, I do work in a community pharmacy on the side. I think it is really an awesome opportunity if you can, while you're studying pharmacy, to work in that setting, whether it's at a hospital or in the community setting. It really just helps with your engagement and stuff in terms of the content you learn and being able to apply that, even just practicing your general things like your counselling and whatnot. I guess in terms of challenges, for me, my hardest part's probably time management and trying to get that balance between study, work, a social life and all that, because you can't really neglect one for the other. You really want to make sure you have that balance.
Yeah, balance is
yeah, and I think taking on other roles too, like for example, my JCU role, I try and sometimes prioritize one thing over another. And I think it's just really important to make sure you do have effective time management and you're putting things to a certain priority.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bree. All right. Well, I'm just conscious of the time. We're right at the end, so we've had a lot of communication with you guys, and hopefully we've given you some really useful information. I'd encourage you to have a look at our website, and we've got a pharmacy landing page which gives you lots of information, not just about us, but about our course and some of our graduates as well. And so if you want to find out more, can I encourage you to make contact with inquiries at jcu.edu.au or ring the 1-800 number. There's a website there, jcu.edu.au/studypharmacy. That will get you to our landing page and I'll give you lots more information. All right, I think that might be us. Look, I just want to thank you all for coming. I really appreciate the time that you spent. It's been a really busy hour. I've done a lot of talking and now my mouth's really dry. I'd just like to thank Shane for joining us, as well as Brianna, Bree. Both have taken time out of their evening to come and have a chat. And look, I'm really grateful for you guys spending some time and supporting our program.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you. And thanks to you also for running this.
All right. So if there are any outstanding questions, we'll just make some type some answers in there for you. But one last thing, encourage you to find out more about JCU, jump on our landing page, give us a call or send us an email. Guys, although I didn't meet you in person, it was a pleasure talking to you. I hope this has been informative and I wish you a good night. See you all.